Welcome. In this video, we're going to be talking about the first publication ever from Dumbarton Oaks Medieval Library that features Spanish. So up until now, everything has either been Byzantine Greek, Latin, or Old English. And for the first time ever in 2024, this is the first book that contains Old Spanish, Medieval Spanish, and there's also a new color. So that green, that sort of lime green, is the color that distinguishes this from the other three colors. So you have the royal yellow, which is for Byzantine Greek. You have red, which is for Latin, and that matches the red of the Loeb Classical Library. And then you have the blue, which is for Old English. And I'm going to be doing separate videos on these, but if you're curious what the titles are, that's what they are. But this video is just going to be about this new publication, the Iberian Apollonius of Tyre. And I'm actually, just to put another little plug, I will be doing the full Vulgate. I have all the volumes of it, so we will be going over that. I'm also going to briefly show you these other Spanish parallel classics that were put out by Aris and Phillips with their Hispanic classics. I was going to do a video on these, and this kind of forced my hand, so I'll show you those very briefly. The main focus is going to be on this, and for those of you who are in my polyglot course or are interested in being polyglots or becoming polyglots, part of my journey of learning 12 languages in 12 months is being able to read these parallel classics and not just getting stuck in the mud with them. So I'm going to show you what the book looks like. We'll open it up here. And I don't know much about Spanish. I took a little bit of Spanish when I was in school, but I don't know much about it. So I'm not going to say too much about or really comment on it. But there's two works in here, and there's an introduction. I'll show you the table of contents. Everything is high quality. The paper has a bit of a shiny, not super shiny, but a little bit of a slick. It's not like a matte, super matte, thick paper finish. It's a little bit thinner. That's the only minor complaint I'd make, but here's the Library of Congress classification stuff, the subject headings. That's what LCHS-SH is, Library of Congress subject headings. So romances, Spanish to 1500, Spanish poetry, Spanish prose fiction. And then you have, right below that, you have the Library of Congress classification and the Dewey Decimal System classification. So published in 2024, you have the Book of Apollonius, and then you have the Life and History of King Apollonius. Two separate stories. There's an introduction, which is, I think it's about 10 pages, 15 pages. And then you get into the first element. And one thing I wanted to show you, and this is part of how I'm learning these different languages, is using ChatGPT to get the audio. So I'm going to actually play for you the audio that ChatGPT gives me.
Here's the text from the image you provided. Libre de Apolonio. En el nombre de Dios y de Santa María, si ellos me guiasen, estudiar querría, componer un romance de nueva maestría del buen rey Apolonio y de su cortesía. El rey Apolonio, de tiro natural, que por las aventuras viscó gran temporal, como perdió la fija y la mujer cabdal, como las cobró amas, que les fue muy leal. En el rey Antíoco vos quiero comenzar, que pobló Antioca en el puerto de la mar, del su nombre mismo fizó la titular. Si entonces fuese muerto no debiera pesar. Cuaca muriésele la mujer con qui casado era, dexole una fija gente de gran manera, no sabían el mundo de beltad compañera, no sabían en su cuerpo señal reprendedera. Muchos fijos de reyes la vinieron pedir, mas no pudo en ella ninguno avenir. This passage is from a medieval version of the Libro de Apolón.
So that just came from taking a picture of the page and putting into ChatGPT. And similarly, if we, it's not super difficult, especially if you know some Latin, nombre, name, Dios, God, Maria, Mary. And they do, what I especially like about this is it kind of separates things into two parts. And a lot of times there's a comma. So you really only have to translate a few words, but part of what I'm doing with this polyglot project is even trying to make sense of a parallel translation like this, you still have to match up each word here with one or more words on the right. And so you actually need to know a fair amount of vocabulary and some grammar to be able to consistently connect the dots between the two sides, because the word order isn't always the same, and it's actually often different. So that's the first, and it just goes through. It's always in this format, but it's quite easy. So my Spanish is quite weak, and I found this to be a really great starter text to go through. So anyways, this is the very end. And then you go to the second item, and I thought it'd be interesting to do the same audio. So this is the photo that I put in, and then I just say, give me the text, and then I click and hold, click read aloud.
Here's the text from the image you provided. Aquí comienza la vida e historia del rey Apolonio, la cual contiene cómo la tribulación temporal se muda en fin en gozo perdurable. El rey Antíoco regnó en la ciudad de Antioquía, del cual ella tomó este nombre. Ese rey hubo de su mujer una fija muy fermosa, y como ella llegase a edad legítima y floreciese de fermosura y belleza, allende de ser fija de rey, dotada y morigerada de otras muchas perfecciones. Muchos grandes y famosos príncipes la pedían por mujer, ofreciendo cada uno muy grande e inestimable cantidad de dote y arras. Mas el rey su padre, ante que deliberase a quien la mejor otorgase en matrimonio, por malvada concupiscencia y non menos con flama de crueldad, se encendió en desordenado amor de su fija, de manera que comenzó a la amar más que pertenecía a padre, el cual, como lidiase con el furor o pugnase con la vergüenza, fue vencido del amor. This text is from a
So yeah, it's really nice to be able to have that turned into an audiobook. And of course you have to do it one page at a time, so it can get a little bit tedious, but it takes a while to go through a parallel translation anyways. And the point of having the English is because they're assuming your Spanish or Old Spanish or whatever other language you're looking at isn't good enough that you can make it on its own. So they've got these little summaries, and these summaries actually remind me of one of the features of the Vulgate, which is that they kept these little summaries. They removed the footnotes and other stuff, but they kept these summaries of each chapter. And so as you go, I might as well just show you the first chapter. they give you a little summary of each chapter. And because Spanish is a descendant of Latin, knowing Latin word order definitely helps make the Spanish word order feel more familiar. So that's pretty much, I don't have much else to say. I haven't gone through this yet, but I did want to make a video about this because I did a Google search and I really looked around. I looked on the Harvard website and literally there's nothing out there about Harvard finally, or Harvard University Press finally getting some Spanish. And from what I've heard and read, they are actually planning on doing additional languages. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some old French coming soon, old Italian. I don't know much about those, I don't know if maybe some Portuguese as well. But the idea with these classics is to be able to bring you back in time. And like this Vulgate, the way they chose this translation is they wanted to get you close to the, what was actually being used at the time. That's why the Vulgate, for example, is so important, is because that is the Latin Bible that everybody was using until Martin Luther translated the Bible into German, and then the King James Version, and it was translated to English, and then the other vulgar languages, the other Romance languages. So one other actually little thing, you may notice the color is a little bit different. It's not exactly the same tint. And the other thing you'll notice is on a lot of these, there's just these weird discolorations, and I haven't been able to figure out what this stuff is, but the only thing I can recommend if you don't like that is order these directly from Harvard University Press instead of from Amazon. I've been really surprised at getting stuff new from Amazon, and it has these various discolorations on it, or I don't know if it's oil or what exactly it is. This rip is my own, so that's separate. But yeah, and I just checked the Harvard University Press website, and these are actually out of stock. So I was kind of surprised by that, but when you can, I would highly recommend getting stuff directly from Harvard University Press instead of Amazon. And they do ship stuff pretty quickly, especially if you want to get something overnight or 2-day. I've had a good experience with that. So that's pretty much it. Let me know what you think down below. Let me know what you think of if there's some other sources of Spanish classics. And actually, I was going to show you these items as well. So this is really like old school. You can see this is the newer design. This is 2011. This is a hardcover, and it's 2013. But it's just got these super wide columns that are annoying to read and keep track of things. So it's not a great experience, and it makes you wonder, like, what were they thinking? They probably just didn't want it to be more thick, because it'd be a lot thicker if it would look more like this, and it can be expensive to print high quality, thick books like this. So that may be why they did it. But yeah, these are the newer versions, and like it just doesn't look good. Like you've got one type of formatting here, and then it's in prose. I guess that's kind of similar actually, but it's just not necessarily the most aesthetic experience. I'll show you the back of this one also. And you can see this one was created on some kind of older word processor because the font and the spacing between the letters is kind of weird. And you can see even like in here, there's, I don't know what exactly font that is, but looks sort of like Courier, like a typewriter. So you see 1987, 1988, 1986 for the preface. So this is really what was out there. There are translations to Spanish of a lot of the Western classics. Like there is an equivalent to the great books of the Western world translated into Spanish, but it's not this parallel format. And just a little trick, by the way, with this bookmark is you can keep two spots by folding it back like that. And that's how these books come. That's why there's this elbow in here, because when you get the book, it'll look like this. And that way this thing doesn't catch and rip out or cause damage. So you can slide it back into the bookshelf like that. But yeah, until now, Spanish has not gotten a lot of attention. And so it's really cool to see this, and hopefully they'll do a lot more in Spanish. And I'd love to see some French as well, and some German. So really all the Romance languages. I'd love to see some Italian, some Portuguese. But yeah, it's great that they've finally gotten the Spanish together. But what I was saying is earlier is like there was no press release saying, hey, this is the first Old Spanish, or this is the first Spanish in the Dumbarton Oaks. They just listed it like anything else. But yeah, it's the first one. So I'll leave it there. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know. Definitely like and subscribe if you want to get more content like this. I'm doing a lot of reviews. I've basically got a collection of every different type of these parallel translations, and I'm big into learning different languages and reading translations. And so if you're interested in the polyglot course, you can get on my newsletter and get on the wait list. If you want to get it sooner, you can email me at support@timothykenny.com and just put polyglot in the subject line. Spanish is one of the, Latin and Greek as well are some of the languages I'm doing in this 12-month challenge and 12-month course, where it basically gets you up to speed on a lot of different languages, primarily for the purpose of reading classics, not necessarily speaking. So being able to access stuff in its original language, and a lot of times you'll be reading it with a translation like this, but you want to be able to access the original and then only use the English when you need clarification, but you want to be able to really swim in the deep end of the pool. So it's a very unique course, because you'll find with all the other courses and books and apps out there, they really focus on speaking languages instead of learning them for this kind of purpose of intellectual history, genealogy of ideas, and just being able to read intellectual works and classic works in their native language. So I'll leave it there. Oh, the other thing is I have a free spreadsheet where I've collected a bunch of different free resources on just various things. If you're interested in these Harvard University Press publications like the ITADI, the other elements of the Dumbarton Oaks, the Loeb Classical Library, the Murti Classical Library of India, and a lot of these other lesser well-known series that have parallel translations. So I'm big into the parallel translations. I've got some Arabic stuff coming, Chinese stuff coming, a lot of different things coming down the line. And I'm going to be doing videos on all those, so make sure you're subscribed. There'll be some additional playlists on the channel besides what's already there, but the spreadsheet has links to all this stuff, and also has other links to other elements of the classics, like the Harvard Classics, Great Books of the Western World, various encyclopedias. So if you're into that kind of content, that's all free. There'll be a link down below, and you can get access to that. And I'll be updating that spreadsheet as well. It's a Google Sheet, so I can just update it over time. And I'm going to be putting out other stuff in that spirit as well, so make sure you get on my newsletter at timothykenny.com. And feel free to put any requests down in the comments. I've learned a lot from the comments on the other videos that I've done on these kind of books and the encyclopedias and great books, classic books videos that I've done. So make sure you check those out. I've also got a great interview with Alexander Arguelles, who's a very well-known polyglot. Definitely check that out. And a bunch of other stuff on the channel. So I'll leave it there. You can check out those resources down in the description, and I'll see you in the next video.